We're talking on Thursday morning. The government shutdown is now well into its second week. From a Democrat's perspective, from the chairman of the state Democratic Party's perspective, what is the way out of this shutdown?
It's really easy. Republicans need to realize that it's bad for the people of Georgia to double their health insurance premiums. Specifically, 1.4 million Georgians are going to have their health insurance premiums double, and Republicans ought not want to do that, and they ought not do it. And we fix that, and the government reopens. It's really not that complicated at all. And I am blown away by both the immorality of their position and how little political sense it makes, frankly, Zach.
I am certain, and I can say this with some certainty because we talk with you, obviously we also talk with plenty of Republicans. They would say, at least publicly, that they think their stance is the right one. They're calling on Democrats to, in the Senate, support this, what they would call the clean continuing resolution that is a stopgap funding measure to reopen the government for now probably 5 weeks, 6 weeks, 7 weeks, some handful of weeks. It's a stopgap funding measure that Republicans say Democrats should support. Do they have a point there when they say that?
No, they don't have a point because, see, people are getting they're here soon, going to get in the mail from their insurance companies that their premiums are going up because of decisions Republicans have made in D.C. Republicans like Mike Collins, Republicans like Buddy Carter, who with the great power they've been given now, not only have cut $540 million out of rural health care with this big billionaire bill, putting at risk 2 million Georgians' Medicaid, but on top of that, they, as a part of that bill, have taken away these subsidies, which will cause 1.4 million Georgians, as we just talked about, their premiums to double. So I don't even know what we're talking about. I mean, why would you want to do that? And at least if that's your policy position, then be a man and stand up and say, well, I don't think 1.4 million Georgians ought to have the rates they do. I think they ought to double. But the thing is, this 5 weeks, 4 weeks, like D.C. talk, ain't nobody talking about that. These notices are coming in the mail. And the government, you know, the people that are paid salaries like Mike Collins and Buddy Carter ought to be working for the people. That's what I'm hearing from folks. I've been, you know, across the state this week, down in southwest Georgia and then in west Georgia, part of the state I'm from. And that's what people are saying. They don't understand why the people they send to D.C. would want to take this away from them.
I'm going to ask you a question, and I'm betting your answer is going to involve something about healthcare policy, but I don't want to presume anything. And this is a point that we've heard from some Republicans. Some Republicans have said earlier this year there was another government funding question mark at the Capitol, and at that time a number of Democratic senators broke with their party and supported a continuing resolution to keep the government open. Republicans point to that and say, hey, Democrats supported this earlier this year. What's changed now?
Well, the big billionaire bill, all those things we just talked about has changed. When that happened, Republicans like Mike Collins and Buddy Carter had not yet cut $540 million from rural health care for Georgians.
So Democrats see this as a chance to try to undo some of what was imposed under what you call the big billionaire bill, what the president would call the big beautiful bill.
Yeah. You know, this is what governing is about. Look, we ain't got the majority, right? Donald Trump loves to run around and say he's all powerful and everything. Republicans control the federal government. What Democrats have is just a little bit of leverage. And with that leverage, I can tell you this, as chairman of the Democratic Party of Georgia, we will use leverage to fight for working people every single day and every single chance we get. And so we're not backing up on this. And they can either help working folks out or they can do this on their own, meaning they can double these insurance premiums on their own. We ain't going to be a part of it.
Do you worry that by taking this stand, your party taking this stand, it seems like the political calculus you and your party are making is that a majority of the public is going to blame Republicans for any negative outcomes of this shutdown. But that's a little bit of trying to predict the future. Is there any worry in the back of your mind that Georgians may blame Democrats to some degree as well for this?
Well, there's a lot of folks, and you talk to them that you know, want to be political prognosticators. That's not me. And that's not what Senator John Ossoff and Senator Raphael Warnock are doing, and our good folks in Congress, our Democrats in Congress from our state. This is about what is right, not about predicting who might be blamed for this, that, or the other thing. We mean it when we say that we believe in the American dream, that we believe everybody's got the spark of divine, and that they should have an equal opportunity to build a better life for their family than they had. And so we don't just run around like, Burt Jones in his square-toed boots and his designer jeans and talk about helping working folks. When we have the opportunity, that's what we actually do. And so it really doesn't have anything to do. I'll let other people comment on what they think might happen politically to Republicans because of this. But this is about what's right and what's wrong.
You are bringing up a lot of people I can't help but notice who are going to be on the ballot in 2026. So far you've referenced Congressman Mike Collins and Buddy Carter, Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones. Collins and Carter, they're running for Senate. Right. Burt Jones is running for governor. You're a state party chair. What, if any, impact on these state races do you think this shutdown might have?
Well, it's a part of a theme of what it is to be a Republican in this state. Zach, they've been in charge for 22 years. And now, 22 years later, the American dream is less attainable than it was when they took power 22 years ago. We've had 12 hospitals close in the last 12 years. You look at the measures and metrics to judge our kids' educational attainment and opportunity. We're last, second to last. We might get a fifth to last every now and then, and people celebrate. And we got a tax code that rewards billionaires and big corporations. And we send all our tax dollars. We pay for folks to have Medicaid expansion. We pay for folks to have health care. It's just our brothers and sisters in Indiana and Kentucky and New York and California. So the big billionaire bill is just another example of what Republicans do when they get power. And so no, Burt Jones and Chris Carr and John Burns and everybody else, in the legislature, they didn't have a vote in the big billionaire bill. But their policies the last 22 years of those politicians have been exactly the same.
Let me ask you one question about this, because I'd be remiss if I didn't. You obviously represent the Democratic Party of Georgia. You're going to have a Democratic perspective on this. I'm sure some viewers will hear what you say, and they're going to be nodding their heads along, and they're going to agree. There will be others who may be Republicans who would argue that that's not quite right. I'm sure there are some Republicans who would look at the last 2 decades in Georgia, and they'd say that Georgia has had substantial growth in its economy. There have been tax rebates, tax cuts, and people like that, and they point to that as a success under Republican leadership. What would you say to that?
Well, I'm sure some of the Republicans would say that because some of them are in my family. I'm from rural West Georgia, Harris County. It ain't exactly a Democratic hotbed or stronghold. So I understand the perspective, and nothing's all or nothing. But the government has certain responsibilities. And look, I would say if people like a tax code that rewards billionaires and big corporations, like Burt Jones is doing with these data centers now that his daddy's company is going to profit off of, the report that was in the AJC.
And I think he'd push back on that, to be clear. This is at the early stages of this, and there have been some allegations made, but I just want to be clear.
We'll see. And he can defend what he did in the legislature to make sure certain certificates of needs for the hospital went through. He can defend that all day long. But if folks want a government that rewards those in power, that rewards billionaires, that rewards big corporations with our tax dollars, if they think that is good, they should vote for Republicans. If they think it's good that we've had 12 hospitals closed in the last 12 years. Right now, I know you know about this, the labor and delivery unit in Livonia at St. Mary's, it's going to be closing here soon. I mean, you're going to have people having babies coming down 441. Like, is this 2025 or 1925? Down in Claxton, they've talked about they're going to have to start, they fear, cutting services to their ICU. These are the real consequences of Republican rule. And everybody's got an opinion, and this is, I'll say this ain't the fault of Republican voters or independent voters. They've been betrayed. Republicans have said over the years that they care about working folks. They've said they care about protecting communities. But we've got an underfunded GBI with 9-month backlogs on the testing of ballistics. We've got years-long backlogs in the testing of sexual assault kits. So nobody really cares when it comes down to it, whether you're Democrat, Republican, or independent, or don't like any of them. Nobody really cares what a politician says. The only thing that matters is what they do. And so I'd urge all Georgians, look at the consequences of the deeds of Republican power. And if you like that, then you should vote for them. But I think most people don't like it.
Let's end here. We've covered a lot of ground, and I want to end a little bit where we started, talking about this shutdown. I'm going to ask you a question that we have asked lots of people, Democrats and Republicans, lawmakers, state party folks. We try to ask this question as often as possible. Right now, Democrats and Republicans in Congress seem a pretty long way apart when it comes to reaching some kind of deal to avert this shutdown. I want to ask you this from a Democrat's perspective. Is there anything in the Democrats' proposal that involves health care spending, Affordable Care Act subsidy extension, that you think Democrats should be willing to move past in order to reach a negotiated compromise? Is there anything that Democrats should negotiate on?
Very good question. The position of the Democrats is this is already a compromise, because you'll notice as a requirement, nobody's saying, hey, put back the $1 trillion you've taken out of Medicaid, the $540 million that'll come from our rural health care systems. They're not saying that. The subsidy, stop cutting these subsidies, don't double or quadruple. And, it's not just a double, right? We're being conservative there. But there's an estimate out in Buddy Carter's district that those folks are going to have a 300% increase. And in Mike Collins' district, a 345% increase. That's the compromise. We're not saying repeal the big billionaire bill. We think they should. But that's not what we're saying. Where we're already at is the compromise.
This is the reporter's folly when they say one last question and then there's an answer and you jog my mind. I want to ask one last thing here. Your perspective reminds me an awful lot of the perspective of a lot of Republicans we've heard from. Was when we asked that question of them, they also often have said, our perspective, our CR, is the compromise. So if you've got two parties who both say, we've already compromised enough, how do you bridge this gap?
Well, Republicans are in charge in D.C. It's their responsibility. They control the House, they control the Senate, they control the White House. And the people of this state and this country are seeing in real time what their priorities are through their deeds. And those deeds, yet again, are protecting people with a lot of influence and a lot of money and having working folks take it on the chin. And I think folks ought to remember that this November with the PSC elections and next November.
I think that's a good time to wrap it up. Charlie Bailey, thank you very much.
Thanks, Zach.